never know where life is going to take you. Some people know exactly where they want to be and go for it full throttle. Others just stumble upon it organically. And then there are those who just follow their intuition. This is a podcast about reaching your personal best through resilience, motivation, and passion. This is Mark My Words. Guten Tag. It's a Sunday morning here, and I am doing a new episode of Mark My Words with my very interesting and inspiring guest today. She hails originally from East Germany before even the wall came down, and currently resides in Florida in Tampa Bay, place I wish I was right now. She is the owner and founder of Custom Cleanups LLC, and she also has a great book out there, and it's a long title. I'm going to try to get this right for you. How Far I Have Risen, Coming Clean About Cancer, God, and My American Dream. Today, I have Jacky Costello on the show. How are you doing today, Jacky?
Hello there. Very good. How are you?
I'm still trying to wake up. It's a Sunday morning for me. It's oh, oh boy, that'll be good in editing later. So coming off of a 6-day work week myself, and yeah, I usually get up so early, and this is kind of like my Saturday. So I'm trying to get my energy up for what we're about to do today, and your story is really, really fascinating. I know before we started, I told you about how I have German roots myself, and right away that really got my interest because that's something I've paid attention to. I obviously we both lived through the end of the Cold War era, and so I have pretty big interest in that. And we'll be talking about your path, which starts off in East Germany. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of East Germany is the difference between East Germany and West Germany. And obviously, I wasn't there. You were there. You can tell me. But what was that like, especially once you got to the West and saw the differences? I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I think I need to say I'm not much of a historian, so I may not be able to provide all the exact information that you may be looking for, but I can tell you, of course, how it was for me. Now, for me, you have to understand when I was born in 1982, and the wall came down in 1989, so I was still a kid, you know, and when you're a kid, I don't think you really fully understand yet what happens around you, like the bigger picture. But I can tell you that even though I was born and I partially grew up in a communist country, to me it was normal life. To me, I wasn't missing anything, and I know it's so hard to imagine for someone who never had anything to do with communism, who just heard or read about it, because everyone thinks it's a bad thing, right? But for those people who actually live in it, I don't think they really know whether it's good or bad, because believe it or not, the people there weren't suffering. My parents, now I'm talking about what my parents told me later on, so I can understand it a little bit better. But, back then, part of communism is that the government makes sure that the people miss out on anything, meaning they provide what you need. Okay, so they provide a job for everyone. They provide daycare for everyone. They provide food for everyone. Now, the downside is that everyone probably has exactly the same. There is no rich, there is no poor. Everyone is sort of the same. Everyone gets the same thing. But for the people, the actual people living there, I don't think my parents even at the time knew that there was something better out there because, again, they had a job, they had daycare, they had the money they needed, they had a car, they had a telephone, they had a TV. So it's really really hard to understand that maybe when you live in that you're not missing anything until later on when you come out of it, that maybe you see, oh wow, there's actually more than that. And my dad was actually the driving force always. My dad didn't agree with communism, and he had always wanted to leave it. My mom wasn't really on board with that because she was very connected to family, and she loved her job, and she felt like my parents weren't missing anything. She said, why do you want to leave? We have everything we need. And my dad always had a bigger picture in mind. He said, this can't be it. I think there's something better out there. And so at the time back then, you had to actually request or file an application if you wanted to leave the country. And I know it sounds crazy when you think about leaving the country because we're still talking about Germany. We're just, as being like in East Texas wanting to go to West Texas, and there's a wall that separates the state. Germany is tiny compared to the United States, and yet it was separated. But you had to file an application if you wanted to leave. And then you were screened and you were checked out, and my parents had to sat down many times and had to answer lots of questions. It took about, I think, 2 or 3 years for my parents to get approval to leave the country. And again, I was only 6 years old. My brother was only 2 years old. He's 4 years younger than I am. And I don't remember much of that time. Lots of what I'm telling you right now is just my parents shared with me how this all happened. But when my parents were granted the application, what happened was one day they got a phone call and they said, you can leave. You got approved, but you have to leave within 24 hours. And please know you're not coming back. So, just imagine you're being told you can leave now, but you have to leave within 24 hours, which who can plan for a move in 24 hours, right? It's
Wow.
almost not realistic. However, my parents had been preparing already. They had sold a lot of their personal items that they knew they weren't going to take. And so we actually left. We got on a train. Every one of us had a suitcase in our hand. That's all we had. And we left. And when we left, we were under the assumption that we would most likely never see our family and friends again, because that's what we were told. And, little we knew that just a couple months later, the wall actually came down. But when we left, no one even considered that. No one knew this. No one thought that this ever was going to happen. So, it was for my parents and for us, it was a huge relief knowing that actually now we will be able to see family and friends again. Because, we were very lonely on this journey. So, yeah, that's my little story from communism, which I know is not very big because I was a kid and, I don't remember much of it, but I do know that I grew up with my grandparents and I grew up with, friends and daycare and that kind of stuff. And I just remember that it was a absolutely normal childhood that I lived.
Wow, that actually is like really really fascinating, especially considering you don't remember much, but you lived it, and that's not really looking for a history lesson. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. So, or hoping as far as your story, not hoping that was your story. I'm sure even though you were so young, that was still kind of like, even if it didn't, outwardly, you didn't show it, I'm sure that impacted you in some way.
Yes, absolutely. I think it really did. Even in my later life, sometimes you don't realize how certain things from your early childhood affect you later on in life.
Yeah. So, you moved away, you got approved, you moved, and then the wall came down, and I'm not going to say everything just magically went back to normal, but the integration of the two sides happened, and you yourself had your own, life to think about. And I know schooling works a little bit different over there than maybe here. If I'm remembering my German classes correctly, I know they try to get you thinking about your career path pretty young in life. I don't know how young they might have started over in East Germany or how that might have worked, but for you, how did that work? Did you have something like a passion or anything in mind, or did it just kind of come to you as you were going through school?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I came to West Germany when I was only 6 years old. So I had a lot of elementary school ahead of me. The school system in Germany is a little different than here. We don't have middle and high schools. It's like a combined thing that you attend between fifth and 10th or 12th grade, depending on, how far you want to go and educate yourself. But I think I realized or learned very early in life that I'm a hospitality kind of person. So I decided, fast forward now several years, I decided that I was going to pursue a apprenticeship in hotel operations. And the reason I chose that was just because I felt that, first of all, I love being around people. I love the hospitality area, but I also thought that maybe looking down, my life, that maybe I could travel, maybe I could, I thought maybe I could be a flight attendant, maybe I could work on a cruise ship. I had a lot of big things in my mind back then. And I just felt like that this would be helpful. Now, back when I was in school, or when I was close to finishing school, uh, kids or teenagers back then, it wasn't as common as it is here in the United States. I feel that just because you're finishing high school, you're going to college. It's not at all a common thing, and I still don't know if it is. Now, of course, there will always be kids that thrive for that goal, right? But in Germany, the system is a little bit different in that. How do I explain that? That people think you should learn a trade, right? And not saying that you can't go to college, but the actual act of learning a trade, like the practical part of, learning a trade and being able to do something, is so valuable in Germany, and it still is. And so a lot of kids oftentimes do what's called an apprenticeship. It takes about 3 years to do that, and what that means is that you partially go to school and learn the theoretical part about whatever you're learning, and then the other part, you actually find a business that will take you in to teach you everything. In my case, it was a hotel. And so, I would go to school on Mondays and Fridays, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was actually at the hotel getting trained in every single department, and learning what it means to be an employee of a hotel. And I did that for 3 years, and loved it. Absolutely loved everything about it. And then realized that I do like the work at the front desk the most compared to all these other areas in the hotel. And so I figured that probably once I was done with that apprenticeship, that I would want to work in that area, maybe somewhere else. And that's when, towards the end of my apprenticeship, that's when I actually met my husband. So plans changed a little bit.
And it's interesting, everything that you're saying about that part of your path totally lines up with my wonderful German teacher, Frau McRae. And I gotta give her like a mention here because it shows me she was really in touch with what was going on. And I really am interested. So I saw when I went through your LinkedIn profile, and yes, I did do that much research. I saw exactly what you said. So it was like a 4-year apprenticeship that you did, internship at a Hotel Mainz, IBS Budget Hotel Mainz. and you did that, and then from there you transitioned into a lot of different things. What happened there that you kind of went away from the hospitality industry?
So what happened was that after I finished up with my apprenticeship, I actually moved around to a couple other hotels and worked at the front desk for a while. But it seemed like that things just weren't really working out. Like I wasn't, all of a sudden, I wasn't as happy as I was during the time that I did my apprenticeship. And I honestly can't really tell you why that is. I just, had a few different employers and I did what I had to do, but I lost a little bit of interest. Again, like I said, I met my husband during that time. I met him when I was very young. I was only 18 years old, and he was 20 at the time. And if you read up on me a little bit already, then you probably know I'm German. He's American. That's why I probably live here now too. He was actually stationed in Germany. He was with the U.S. Army there, and we met. And I still wanted to pursue my career, but like I said, things just didn't really pan out the way I wanted to. So I ended up working for a couple companies, kind of like office jobs, just admin things, which I like to. And it's interesting because in Germany, when you do an apprenticeship, when you learn a trade, it's really great, right, to know this trade. But there's also a little bit of a catch with it, and the catch is once you learn that trade, people only want to hire you for that trade. Meaning, if all of a sudden you realize that that really wasn't the right thing for you, you're a little stuck and it's hard to get into a new job because many times people don't want to give you the chance for another job because you really don't know it. You didn't learn it. And I find in the United States here, ever since I moved here, it's very different. You can go anywhere and get the opportunity to be taught something new. And you can even become the manager in that place if you're good at what you do, right? In Germany, it's a lot harder. So for me to get away from the hotel area into maybe the admin area was very, very hard. I think part of what I realized was that if I want to continue working in hotels, as much as I liked it at the time, I will have a hard time starting a family. I will have a hard time having kids because let's be honest, when do people work in hotels? They work early mornings, they work late nights, they work holidays, they work weekends. And if you want to start a family, which at that point I was, starting to think about, I knew this job was probably not going to be the best for me. So I liked the office part, the admin part of the hotel area. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just try and find like a Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 kind of job that would fit that, what I'm looking for a little bit better. It was really hard. I did find a few employers that would, help me with that. And that's what I did for a while. My husband and I actually ended up moving within Germany. My husband got out of the military at some point, and we moved to Stuttgart, which is in southern Germany. And I was able to get a really good position again at a hotel, which made me happy. And I was the executive assistant, which to me was this huge thing. I was really happy about it. And I did that for a couple of years. And I thought to myself, I think this is kind of like the way to go. This is probably a good thing for me. And I then got pregnant, and we had our son in 2010. And in Germany, you get to stay home and take care of your baby a little longer than you do in the US. So I was actually home I'm trying to think right now. I was home for a year or a year and a half, and then wanted to go back to work. But unfortunately, something else came across. When my son started daycare and I was ready to go back to work, I was diagnosed with cancer. So that kind of threw me a curveball.
Wow. So when you were thrown this curveball, what came next?
Well, the cancer kind of knocked me out for about a year. Kind of stole a year of my lifetime in a way, but it also taught me a lot. So it was not only bad. Well, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2013. I already started having symptoms in 2012, and it took quite a while for the doctors to figure out what it really was. It was not like an obvious kind of cancer. And so in 2013, I had major surgery to remove, the cancer, remove everything else that would, you know, let me ever have children again. So that's why I only have one son and not more kids. Um, and like I said, it took me a good year physically. I think emotionally it took me much longer to get past that. And unfortunately, something else happened during that time while I was in the recovery process of the cancer, to heal. My husband was told that he had to move back to the States. And so not only I had to recover from cancer, but we also had to prepare for an international move, to move from Germany to Florida. And, you know, we did that in 2014. I was barely feeling better for my cancer. And we moved here and had to start a whole new chapter of our life, all on our own. Now, my husband has family in the States, but not necessarily in Florida. So we were here on our own, really, because the States are so big that it doesn't really help you if you have family in Michigan. If you live in Florida, you're still by yourself. So we had to start from scratch here.
So when you were going through all this stuff, cancer, surgery, moving, all these life changes, and especially when another coughing fit here, when you knew that you were moving to the States during all this time, were you kind of prepping in your mind about, okay, when I get better, I'm going to start my own business. Like, I really want to get back to my roots. What were you thinking, if you were even thinking about it at all at the time?
So moving to the States was a very big step for me. Obviously, it was my first international move. I had to leave my family behind, family, friends. So that was hard. And when I was a kid and we left East Germany, we actually moved around quite a bit until my parents found a place where we settled and where we stayed. So I want to say I moved at least 5 or 6 times in my childhood, which also meant I had to change schools 5 or 6 times. I always had a really hard time to connect because of that, because if you're only somewhere for a year or two, it's really hard. So I always felt like that it was really hard for me to grow roots. And I always told myself when I'm an adult and I can make my own decisions, I want to be in a place and grow roots. I don't want to move around all the time and never really grow roots. So moving here was a very, very big and scary step for me. And I was really wondering how this was going to work out, because we just had each other, my husband, my son, and I. And when we first moved here, I really didn't know what kind of career path I would aim for. My husband came here already with a job. He was just transferred from his job in Germany to this area here where we live now. But for me, I had a 3-year-old little child that I knew I had to care for because there was no daycare right away, that I could have dropped them off. And when we first arrived, we lived in a hotel for 2 months, and we're searching for a house. Didn't find a house right away, so that's why that took kind of long. And my husband and I talked about, what opportunities do I have, or what do I see myself doing? And I was still recovering from cancer. I wasn't as strong physically, as I maybe should have been to start a new career. But at the same time, we had to come up with something because I needed to work to help out my husband financially. And at the same time, I'm a hard worker. If I don't work, if I don't do nothing, I feel useless. I literally feel useless. I have to have a purpose. It's really important for me. So we were wondering, what can I do? Where can I work? And we came up with the idea that I could be just in the beginning, clean some houses just to have a little bit of a side income. And it's kind of a flexible job too. I could do it maybe when my husband is not working. And so I found a few jobs out of my hotel room. And my husband and I went, I remember it just like it was yesterday. We didn't have much money when we first moved here because my husband got paid a lot more money being overseas than he did here. So we really didn't have a lot of money available. So we went to a dollar store and bought myself a few cleaning supplies. I kid you not, it was probably $10 we spent to get me started. And it wasn't a business at that point. It was just me cleaning some houses. And I found one or two people that I cleaned houses for. And I guess they liked the German cleaning lady. What can I say? You know how people talk about Germans, how we're so accurate and perfect, clean and tidy and whatever. So that was probably partially it. And those people told their neighbors and friends and posted it on Facebook and, the whole social media thing that's going on. And next thing I knew, I had people calling me asking me if I would clean their house too. And we ended up finding a house and moved into our house. So we were out of the hotel. And because now I had some income from my cleaning jobs, we were able to put our son in daycare. It's kind of like a chain reaction, you know how that works. And now that he was in daycare, I had a little bit more time available in the mornings to clean some more houses. And next thing I know, I had so many houses that I felt like I needed someone else to help me. I can't do this all on my own. So I found some help and another lady or another two ladies. And all of a sudden, let's say maybe 2 years down the road from when I started, my husband and I sat down and we said, I think we've reached a point where we have to decide now. Is this what you want to do? Do you want to make a company out of this? Do you want to make a real business out of this? Or was this just to kind of get you started moving to this country and maybe now start your real career, whatever that is? Because at that time, I realized I don't think I want to work in hotels anymore because, in Germany, everything is close to each other. It's so condensed. It's a much smaller country. So you can drive to work in 5 minutes and be at your hotel. Here, everything is so big and so spread apart that you can easily drive half an hour, 45 minutes to your job. And, again, we had to think about that we don't have any family here. We didn't have a support system here. So we had to really make sure that my husband's schedule and my schedule and our son all aligns and that we can be there for each other as needed. So I felt like that the hotel thing really wasn't working out anymore. And so I said, well, I guess I could work in retail maybe. But I don't know, at that point, I was already kind of engaged in this cleaning thing. And, a lot of people hate cleaning, but I can say I love cleaning. So I really felt like I had found a niche for myself that I was really happy in. So I had to make the decision, what am I going to do? Pursue this or do something else? And I decided to stick with it and to make a real company out of it. And so I slowly started growing my cleaning business.
So the fact that you became an entrepreneur and you have an LLC, I almost would say it kind of just happened by accident almost, you just kind of came to the country, you did what you had to do, and I'm guessing you had in the back of your mind at some point, maybe I'll do something else, whatever that is, but it turned out this was that something else.
Correct. Yes.
So, one thing I'm curious about when you're building a team of cleaning help for your company, like you come into this with a background, you're a really hard worker. What's that like for you as far as like living up to your standards? Because that's a really like blue collar kind of job, it's not something you can, you know, I guess for lack of a better word, you can't really half-ass a cleaning business. You gotta really do that. You gotta be all in. So,
Yes, I
what's
agree.
that like for you when you're hiring help and just trying to make sure that they understand the expectation and the bar they have to reach to just maintain job security.
Yeah. So I think a few things that are really important for me personally is, first of all, I have the passion for it. I think that's why I'm successful, because I feel like if you own a business, hopefully you really love what you do, right? Because if you love what you do, people feel that on the outside. That's my experience. And I'm a first-time business owner. I have never done this before until I came here. So I can't speak for others, and I don't have any other experience other than my own. But I believe that the passion I have for what I do reflects to the outside. People see that and are gravitated to that. And another thing about myself is that I've always been a hard worker. I think I was taught by my parents to be a hard worker. My parents always worked. Everything they owned, they worked hard for. And I'm the same way. I never got anything free. No one ever handed something to me, whether it was money or anything. Everything I have today, I worked for. And, I say that not to have people feel, I don't know, sorry for me or whatever, but I just want people to know that if you work hard for something and you really dedicate it, you can do whatever you want to do, right? And I have a feeling that my employees that I hire now, of course, you hire. I've had a lot of employees already, and this is kind of a transitional job because no one cleans to clean for life, right? This is mostly people that need a job in between jobs, maybe just to make sure they have money. And so some employees don't stay forever. It's just unfortunately part of that industry, and it was a little hard for me in the beginning to find new people and then lose them again. And I always took it a little personally because I thought maybe they're leaving because of me. But I had to learn that, again, it is a transitional job. It's not a job forever, at least for most people. And so when I do hire people, I think that they should love cleaning too, like I do. And there are people out there. It's not very many, but there are people out there. But I think that when I train new people and when they come into the business, um, I think that my passion that I have for this business is almost contagious. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but again, if other people can see how much this means to you, and if they're open to it, if they really want the job, I think they get excited with you and they want to be part of it too. And, I train everyone in the same way that I clean or that I would want it done. Now, of course, you can't clown somebody. If I taught you how to clean now, you still wouldn't do it exactly like I do because you're Mark, right? You're a different person. But at the same time, I can teach you in the very best way I can. And hopefully, if you want to be part of this journey, then you try to copy that as much as possible. So I think that's been part of my, I don't want to call it a secret, but that's what I've been doing. And so far it's worked out really well for me.
So you talked about early in life how you went through the system and you were like, okay, I want to be in hospitality, and now later in life you developed this company. Where do you have any idea where the passion that you have for this business came from? Because I know for me and for a lot of people, doing any kind of cleaning is it's like a chore. It's not something that people want to do. So where, and I mean, the world needs Jacky Costello. They need people like you because there's so many of us that don't have that passion. Where do you think that came from?
That's a very good question. So if you ask my mom and dad, they will probably tell you that I wasn't always the cleanest, especially as a teenager, and that sometimes my room looked like hell. And that sometimes my parents tell me, in a very funny way, that they're very, very impressed and amazed by the turn I took, and that now this is my job, my everyday thing. Um, it's funny. I don't know if I can exactly tell you what happened and when it happened. But if you ask my husband, who's been married to me for almost 20 years now, so he knows me pretty well. He will probably tell you that I I clean. I mean, I can clean any time a day, and it takes my mind off. You know, other people may crochet and cross stitch or go play golf, like my husband. To me, cleaning is I don't know. It calms me down. It helps me when I'm stressed out about something. I just clean, and it's I don't know. It fulfills something in me. I can't explain it in a better way. And you're right. There should be more Jacky Costellos, and I think that's why I probably won't go out of business because there's people that need people like me in their life.
Well, one thing that I can say is when I'm stressed or going through something, the one thing that kind of helps me to calm down is doing chores around the house. So that when you said that, I instantly thought of, yeah, anytime I'm going through something or I'm really worked up, that's exactly what I do. I start cleaning the house.
And that's good. I like that. But
Yeah,
I don't think everyone is like that. You know, it's like my husband, again, he knows me well enough to know if all of a sudden I do 5 loads of laundry and I start cleaning baseboards, he asks me, he goes, Jacky, what's wrong? What's going on with you? And sometimes I may not even know, sometimes we don't know exactly what's going on with us. We just feel anxious and nervous about something. And sometimes I tell him, I'm like, I don't know, but I feel like I need to be cleaning now. And then he usually knows he better leaves me alone for a little bit.
I feel like the exact same thing happens on my end. My wife, when she sees me going through a cleaning fit, it's just, okay, just let him clean and let him work out whatever he needs to work out. And, I wind up coming back around once I get that energy out. I think it's all about just getting that energy out
I
of your
agree.
system.
Yes,
So
I agree.
once you work it out and you calm down and your normal self again, then you can talk about what's going on.
Yeah, I agree.
So you started up this business. It kind of accidentally turned into like an entrepreneurship. One thing I do want to ask is if I'm somebody going through a similar thing, maybe not similar path, but just I need to make a few bucks. I start up a cleaning business and then I find out, wow, this is going well. I should make it something bigger. What kind of things should people do or keep in mind? Like, what was the process and the transition of going from just making a few bucks to like, this is a bigger thing?
Okay. So, of course, depending on what business it is that you are looking to start, I think it always depends on the niche, right? That you want to be in. For me, it was very hard in the beginning. Once I decided to not just be Jacky the cleaning lady, but make it into a business, um, because of a couple things. Number one, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm German. I have a green card that I live on here in the United States because I'm married to an American. Um, so I fall under a few different regulations maybe than other people. Um, but at the same time, English is not my first language. I know many people say, I can't tell, Jacky, your English is great. But I had to learn everything the hard way. I never owned a business before. I didn't know where to go, who to call, what to ask. What is an LLC? I mean, I have an LLC now, but I didn't know what it was 8 years ago. I didn't know what all of this meant. So I want to say I learned the hard way just because I had to spend some money and I had to find people, and not everyone was maybe the most trustworthy. Other people may have more connections. They can ask friends or other people around. I didn't know anyone when I came here, so I had to really, really dig hard and learn the hard way. Generally, I want to say that couple of years down the road now, I have met many other small business owners. I joined a few networking groups. We meet regularly just to kind of motivate our each other and help each other out and refer business to each other. And it's really helpful to know other people who do maybe not the same kind of trade you do, but we all have the same struggle as small business owners. And when it comes to starting a business and be successful in a business, I just found a few like core values really important to be successful. And it doesn't have anything to do with how to start an LLC. You know what I mean? Not like that, but it's like core issues. Like, for example, always be honest. Be transparent, work hard, take responsibility, be true to yourself. When you fall, yeah, fall and sit there and cry for a day or an hour, but get back up. Those are kind of like those things that I know they sound so easy, and they know they sound like everyone should know them. But I've learned along the way that there's many people who don't work hard. They want the success, they want a company, but yet they only want to work 10 hours a week. Well, you're not going to be successful if you work 10 hours a week, or if you're, depending on what service you offer. I'm a big fan of being transparent. Now, I don't have a price list on my website, right? But if a client asks me, why do you want to charge me $150 to clean my house? I can tell you exactly where the $150 come from. I can break it down for you by the cent, right? And I think that's really important. It makes people like you. It makes people understand who you are and what you do and why you do it. And I just feel like that sometimes it lacks people core values to be successful. You have to be passionate about what you do. You have to be, like I said, honest to yourself and to others. And if you have some of these core values, I think you can be successful if you have the passion for what you want to do.
Wow. And I totally agree with you. And especially the part that really stuck out to me is when you fall, take the time, recognize how you're feeling, but get back up and continue, especially if you're passionate about what you're doing. I know I personally, this podcast, it may seem like everything just goes smoothly and perfectly. And it doesn't always go smoothly and perfectly, and there are times where I have had times where I've said, boy, I don't know if I can even continue doing this. But once I remove myself for a while, and especially when I have such great guests like you and everybody else, everybody I've had this year has been amazing. And it's like it keeps me going, and it really reminds me of why I'm doing this. And that tells me that in some way I'm doing the right thing. So it's important when you're trying to do something for yourself to, there are going to be a lot of really fun times and good times with it. Especially for me, I love meeting people like you and just all the different stories and personalities. I love it. But there are going to be challenges along the way, and there are going to be things that come up that you're not going to expect. And it's important to understand that and go through what you got to go through. But, eventually pick yourself up and keep going.
I
And
agree. Absolutely. Yes.
your life story in general has been that, just that. And I feel like it's been so much so that you have this book that you wrote, and I'm curious to find out. Obviously, you have a really interesting story, and you probably knew that going into it. And I'd like to know, maybe other than just being an interesting story and hoping to be an inspiration, what was the motivation? What clicked for you that you said, I need to write this book?
Um, Good question. So as you already said, the book um, details my early life in East Germany, starting a family, my battle with cancer, the things that I lost in life because of the cancer, not being able to have any more children, grow my family, and then coming to the U.S., building my business in the middle of all of this. Um, I felt that it is a story to tell to maybe help others. Um, maybe it's not even much more than inspiring and motivating others. But there was a time that was really dark in my life, and at the time, I wasn't sure where my life was going to go. And so I feel that we all have times in our life where we are in these valleys, and my pastor at church, he had a sermon once that it always stuck to me. And he said, you're either about to go in a valley, you're in a valley, or you just came out of one. And it will repeat all life long. And I think we have to be realistic enough to know that. We have to be ready for it. And when we are in a valley or about to go into one, I feel like it can help us to know that others have been there already, have done that already, and maybe find out what they did to come out of it. And if anything, I just wanted to share my story in the hopes that it could motivate somebody else to keep push through whatever you're going through. And that while you may not see that what you're going through right now in that valley is doing you any good, that, oftentimes we don't know until much later how this valley affected us actually in a positive way. It's like we ask, sometimes we ask, why am I going through this valley? Why are things so bad right now? Why is this happening? But then later on, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 10 years later. You're like, oh my God, man, this is why I had to go through this, and that's how I felt. And so, I just feel like that I wanted to write down the story. And if not for anyone else, then for myself too, to kind of get through it. And so I just hope that I can inspire and motivate some people. When you are in that valley, don't think this is the end. Something comes after the valley, but you have to get up. You can't sit still. You have to get back up.
Does it feel different telling your life story as opposed to living it? Do you tend to look at it from a different perspective now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things that are part of my story are not necessarily super recent. It's been, a while back. Like my cancer now was like 8 years ago, or 9 years ago. And so it feels I'm being more distanced to some of the negative things that happened to me. So it gets easier to talk about it. Um, does it feel different? Yeah, I mean, um, I feel like it gets easier, just easier to talk about it because a lot of good stuff has happened since then. So, that's exactly what I just said. It feels like looking back now, I didn't understand why a lot of these things happened back then, and it didn't make much sense. And I was, not very positive about things. But now looking back, I think a lot of this stuff shaped me to who I am right now.
No, and that's exactly how I feel about my own life because I've certainly been through my ups and downs. And I know that starting this podcast, there was a purpose behind it. Obviously, I wanted to talk to people like you and meet people doing all kinds of interesting things. But I also felt a need to tell my own story a little bit and to just be an inspiration for others because I had people telling me as early as 6 years old, I remember one story in particular, probably one of the biggest things that sticks out to me is, I was born with cleft palate and lip. So speaking, I've come a long way with just public speaking in general. And I remember in first grade, 6 years old, I went to a Catholic school. Every week we would have a turn taken to run the mass, quote unquote. So first grade maybe got one shot a year, if, maybe two, and it would just take a long time. But somehow I either tried to volunteer or got nominated to speak, and it was something that some of the nuns in the school and some other people, they were like kind of against it. And my mom really had to go to bat for me to allow me to do it. And when I did it, I remember doing really well and everybody congratulating me and saying, wow, you did better than we expected. And that kind of thing early on really fueled me to, much to your point of dusting yourself off and getting back up and keep going, and the valleys and everything else in life. And that for me kind of led me, you know, I've told my story here and there in these episodes, bits and pieces. We don't have enough time. This is about you anyway. But my point being is that, you know, it the past really impacted me. And I know that when I look back on my past, I almost feel like, as you pointed out, very distant from it, but somehow it's still there. And it's still a part of the story. It's a part of who I am. And that, for me, you know, just the opportunity to tell my story a little bit and to just be who I am, and for people to see and hear that I was born with some obstacles and some challenges and have had a lot of people doubt me, but at the end of the day, I have maintained a sense of self and I have kept moving forward. And that's really like, I guess when I talk to you, I see, obviously I haven't been through quite what you've been through, but you know, that same core, you know, strength, the inner, you know, being in touch with yourself and that
Yeah.
strength to keep going is very similar. And I really appreciate that about you, and your perspective is just amazing and really inspiring.
Thank you.
So at this point in the show, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about. I mean, you have this wonderful book that you've written, you have your business going. What's next for you? What do you want to do next?
I almost figured you were going to ask me that question.
Of course, I
um,
ask everybody.
so I've been asked that question lately several times. It's funny. People ask me, "Are you willing to write another book?" The answer is right now, no. I feel like everything I had to say, I said already. Not saying that down the road, maybe I will have more to say and maybe write another book, but I'm really happy with the book that I wrote together with my husband. And so as far as the book goes, I think I'm done for now. However, I don't think I'll ever stop telling my story. Of course, only to those who want to hear it. But I often meet people that I feel like I can share something with and maybe help them through something. Just like the other way around. Sometimes, you meet people that inspire you and you feel like maybe you already knew everything about something specific, but yet someone shares their perspective and you start thinking, oh, wow, this is interesting. Maybe I could try that too. Um, as far as my business goes, I'm really happy with what I do right now. And I don't even have a 5-year plan. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing for now. I do believe that maybe, Florida is not my final destination. I don't know I don't know what kind of plans God has for me as far as the future. I'm definitely open to it. So I'm not really sure. As long as my family is healthy and happy and we can be together and enjoy life, I don't really care where that is and what we'll do. Just kind of along for the ride right now.
Fair enough. I love that perspective. And I mean, with you living the path that you've lived, I don't know if I'd expect anything else. So, with that being said, how can people get your book, learn more about your story? Uh, Perhaps if they live in the Tampa Bay area, they want cleaning services, or they just want to learn more about what you do. How can we learn?
So as far as my cleaning business goes, you can find me on Google, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook. My business is Custom Cleanups. We are in the Tampa area, so if you just type us into Google, you will find us. As far as my book goes, I sell that on Amazon. You will find it there. As you already said earlier, my title is very long, but if you just type in How Far I Have Risen by Jacky Costello, you will find it. We sell it in the States. We sell it in England and Canada. It's Amazon, so you can almost get it anywhere. And if you want to learn more about me, I have a website too called howfarihaverisen.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm just like many other people all over on social media. You can find me everywhere, actually.
And you also have a blog on your website as well, correct?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, a lot of good content there. So you can definitely learn more about Jacky and her perspective on life there. And I thank you for taking time out on Sunday morning to speak with me.
Well, thank
What,
you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
oh, no problem. I mean, what a story. Really inspiring to get me started on this Sunday morning. Like I said, I came off a 6-day work week. So if my energy seems a little low, it's nothing to do with anything here. It's just, I am tired. But I thank you so much, and your story is so inspiring, and I wish you nothing but continued success with everything. And again, Jacky Costello, she has a book, she's an author, How Far I Have Risen, Coming Clean About Cancer, God, and My American Dream. Jacky Costello, thank you very much for being on Mark My Words.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Have a great day, and everybody. I will be back very soon with another great guest and another episode. So, bye for now.